What's going on, everybody? Mortem here, this time bringing you a look at the first major update for New Arc Line, a cRPG that is currently in early access that has shown quite a bit of promise, though since its initial release into early access it had been a little quiet, which was a few months back. So I was excited to see, of course, some progress on that front. And in terms of what this update actually brings, we've got things like the playable race of the dwarves, which includes a couple of new classes, the steampunk mechanic as well as the hellfire occultist. We get a look at a brand new companion, though it doesn't appear that she joins you in full just yet, of course, and also a new area that corresponds with that introduction. Now, unfortunately, I did not have access to the full patch notes for this little preview, so I'm sure there are more than likely some changes in this update that I did not immediately notice, but one thing that stuck out to me in addition to all of those things that I really wanted to mention was that they do seem to have improved the tutorials for their combat system, with a quick breakdown of what all the icons are, some of the basics around how they do damage mitigation, how the armor system works, which refreshes every turn, which is a way to give yourself, of course, damage prevention from initial enemy hits every single round, and, just general stuff like that. But to get into the actual meat of the changes themselves, first up we've got the playable race of dwarves. A bit of an all-around race in terms of their bonuses to the various things like technology and magic and how those are split up here. They can very much so be proficient at both, but while the free-form nature of this game makes specializing in something relatively easy regardless of your particular character's race, one thing I did want to point out is they do have some specific dialogue for dwarves there. In some cases it actually allowed me to bypass skill checks and stuff just by nature of being a dwarf talking to other dwarves. So there was that, but let's talk about these new classes. So as of right this second, these new classes are only available to the dwarf. This is not a permanent restriction, merely a temporary one. Eventually, all classes will be available to every race when the game actually launches, or at least in a future update. The restriction is currently temporary. Not exactly sure why it's in place currently. I would imagine there's some sort of reasoning behind it, but as it stands, that's what's going on. Now, one of these classes was playable via a companion previously, which is the steampunk mechanic. These guys are basically all about heavy armor, various types of gadgets, and the like, on top of a heavy use of things like melee weapons, which means these guys make great tanks, with some added utility via, of course, all the gadgets they're able to deploy, such as the various grenades available to you. Pretty obvious choice for a dwarf, I think, all things considered. And probably worth a mention in here that this is important for things like various bits of equipment, which are in fact class-locked. But our already available companion, Mick, is in fact a steampunk mechanic himself, so you will have to split some gear there, which is probably worth a mention. Now, the other class that is also in here that I enjoyed a lot more personally was the hellfire occultist. They are all about dealing damage with the arcane, and in practice, as again the name would probably imply, they are very akin to something like a pyromancer. They start out with a few basic fire spells, of course, but as you engage with the magic crafting system, which lets you customize your spells, they get access to things like a localized explosion that sets everybody on fire, your standard fireball, a spell that will deal damage to yourself, but also increasing your armor rating by the amount of damage done, and more tried and true stuff like just a straight up corpse explosion as a few examples. So they can do a wide variety of things in combat, and having played that one specifically for my look at this update, gotta say I'm honestly a pretty big fan of it. I'm genuinely probably going to consider this one at least, unless I see something more interesting when it comes around to doing a full first playthrough. Genuinely seems pretty fun in combat, but of course the other big part of this update is meeting that new companion and enjoying the new area that quest takes place in. In the slums area of the early access period, you can run across a gnome trickster, as he is described in the update, at one of the intersections there. This guy is wearing a bright green suit to, of course, call attention to himself. I'm unsure if that is a temporary placeholder to, again, just draw that attention, or if that's planning on being changed later or what, as honestly it does feel a little out of place. But it does do the trick because it will, in fact, put you on that guy's path. But he's got a quest for you. You're going to get to the bottom of some things involving his family, and that is likely where you're going to meet the potential new companion, Claudia. Claudia appears to be a voodoo shaman, kind of rounding out the magic users available to you if you choose to be a Hellfire cultist. Claudia could be your voodoo shaman, and then you get Magda, who is your celestial mage, which was already available. So, depending on how the rest of the companions shake out, that seems likely enough. Now, at least with my experience here, I did not see an option to actually get Claudia to join me right this second. Like, there was dialogue and everything, and they introduce her. But I believe this is the introduction, and then she actually joins your party later, unless I just missed something. I will say, however, Claudia does seem pretty interesting, because Claudia itself, I guess I would put it, is not exactly a person. Rather, some sort of malevolent force that has taken over someone's body. This was some sort of monstrosity that had been trapped in a mirror and through some trickery swapped places with a woman named Claudia. From the description I got in-game, it sounds like she'll be using her voodoo powers in order to drain enemies, sap them of their strength, and generally debuff them in addition to dealing the damage she can deal. So definitely seems like a more utility-focused character, but I can't say in full until obviously it's a little more playable than its current state. Now that does pretty much cover everything major with this particular update, but just a few general notes about it. For starters, I do like this update. I think it's good, probably took a little long to get here, to be honest with you, and I don't love that the new classes are restricted by race, even if that is a temporary thing. Other than that, though, it is pretty good, and what is currently in early access is a lot of fun content anyway. Now, obviously, it does still have some issues with things like polish that needs to happen, some frame rate issues, optimization, things like that. And there's clearly, just from the update at this point, a lot of things to go before it is, of course, ready for release. And on that front in particular, I know they were originally shooting for a late 2025 release. I'm not sure if that is still currently the plan or not, given that it's July and this is our first major update for the game. And I wanted to mention that specifically because over on the Steam page, they have more or less alluded to the things that are still yet to come. For instance, we know there's going to be a subclass system at some point, providing specializations for these classes I've already talked about. And there should also be, more companions, classes, and races yet to go, which all comes with things like new abilities and spells and presumably some interactivity as well. And that is a lot to do, so unless they are just significantly farther ahead behind the scenes, this really seems like more of a summer 2026 full release to me at least. Overall, though, genuinely a good update. They do actually have the early access on a slight discount right now for Steam's summer sale, which is going on for another week or so if you wanted to check it out for, I believe it's like $16 US at the moment. But if that is not of interest to you, and you are waiting on the full version, you still have some time to wait, I think. But it is looking promising, and I am obviously going to continue covering these updates, and I am at least looking forward to the full release myself, as there is, in fact, a ton of potential here. That's gonna do it for today, though, so certainly hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, by all means, like, comment, subscribe, all that YouTube jazz, but regardless of any of that, truly, just thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. May you wander in wisdom and have an amazing day.